I show 2 minutes. One minute. And we have 9:30.
Okay, good. Whoop. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I don't need any challenges this morning. Okay, welcome, and I will call the meeting to order for the Western Municipal Water District Regular Board Meeting, October 1st at 9:30. May we have roll call, please, Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Gardner.
I am here.
Director Torres.
Present.
Director Denstedt.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Director Rizvi.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. President Roten.
And I also am here. Good morning.
Good morning. President Roten, you do have a quorum today.
Okay, thank you. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to invite Jose Garcia, Accountant 2 in the Finance and Accounting Department, to come forward and lead us in the pledge this morning. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, well, as you mentioned, my name is Jose. I work for the Finance Department, and I'm an accountant too. And I've been at Western for 2.5 years. Two fun and a half years, yeah. So.
All right, thank you.
Okay, ready? We'll begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ford, do we have any public comments?
President Roten, we do not. I received no written comments and I've had no request to speak.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to the consent calendar, item 5A and B. Do we have any questions or wishing to pull anything off consent?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will abstain from 5A as I was not in attendance. And can we proceed with the vote, please?
Director Gardner.
Aye.
Director Torres.
Yes.
Director Denstedt.
Aye.
Director Rizvi.
Aye.
President Roten.
Aye on item B and abstain on item A.
Thank you. The
please.
motion carries 4-1 with Director Roten abstaining on item 5A and 5-0 with all board members voting yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know that gets a little convoluted.
It's all
but-
good.
And Mr. Miller, any items to be added to the agenda?
There's nothing to add today.
Okay, excellent. We'll move on to item 7, action agenda. A, conduct a public hearing and receive a verbal report on Western Municipal Water District vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. And I see Ms. Judd at the podium.
She is. She is ready to do her public hearing, but we need the president
Okay,
to open the public hearing for us.
all right. Oh, and I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing before your presentation. That was when I was supposed to do that, sorry.
You're still good.
Okay. This is the time and place set for the public hearing to receive staff and recognized employee organizations' presentations on the status of job vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. Law provides for this public hearing so that interested individuals may provide Western Water with comments.
All right, so this is a new law that we have to comply with. Legislation last year passed SB or AB 2561 as mandated by Government Code Section 3502.3, requires that a public agency prepare a report that provides information to the public each year concerning the status of its employment practices. So I'll now ask Candy to give the status of our employment practices.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Can you hear
Yep,
me?
you're
Okay,
good.
wonderful. Good morning, President Roten, board members, staff, and public. I'm not going to repeat everything that was just said, but a few little added additions to the background for the purposes of the public and those in attendance here today. Assembly Bill 2561 went into effect on January 1st, 2025. And as mentioned, the intent is to address staffing shortages, promote transparency, improve recruitment and retention efforts, and ensure that recognized employee organizations have a platform to voice concerns. As Mr. Miller alluded to, the requirement of Assembly Bill 2561 includes a public hearing before the Board of Directors at least once per fiscal year, must be done before a budget is adopted, provides status of job vacancies by bargaining unit, and provides discussion of ongoing recruitment and retention efforts to reduce vacancies, which can have an impact on services to the public if left unfilled long-term. In addition, it provides for an opportunity for the recognized bargaining units to make a presentation at the public hearing related to the vacancies within their respective bargaining unit. Western Waters Employee Association was notified of the public hearing in accordance with Government Code Section 3502.3 and notified HR that they do not have a formal presentation to make. Next slide, please. And we went over this slide too. Next slide, please. Thank you. Western Water's current recruitment vacancy is 4.5%, and we have a total of 177 full-time equivalent positions authorized within the budget. We have 8 vacancies currently in the active recruitment process, and 4 of those positions are within the Employee Association unit, and 4 positions are within the Management Professional and Confidential group. Next slide, please. Western Water HR manages a robust recruiting strategy in partnership with our department managers and executives to fill vacancies in a timely manner. Our job announcements are sent to all internal employees first and then posted to Western Water's job board along with targeted job boards online. In addition, we utilize various social media outlets for advertising. And our ongoing retention efforts and investments in employees include competitive compensation and benefits, continual staff development opportunities, tuition reimbursement, a formal mentoring program, enhanced workforce communication, and we hope it's meaningful work. Next slide, please. This last slide provides a snapshot of our last full 3 years, 2022, 23, and 24, and this year's partial year retention rates. Western Water's average turnover rate is 8.17% per year, consisting of an average of 5 retirements and 10 resignations per year. Next slide, please. This concludes my public hearing presentation, and I will turn it back to Mr. Miller and the board for any questions.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
So Director Denstead, you had asked about retirements and retention, so that last slide was in response to that. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have on that. But let's, do we need to
Open the,
send it back to the board president?
okay. Thank you for your presentation. We will now open the public hearing to receive comments from any member of the public present.
President Roten, I have received no request to speak on this item.
Okay. Seeing no one else who wishes to speak, the public hearing will now be closed. Do any board members wish to comment? Are there any further comments from staff? And if not, we'll entertain a motion.
I have just a quick comment
Yes.
and a question. So, great stats. If we could pull up the last slide with those, next one. There you go, right there. This is very helpful. And my question would be then, for your vacancies, what's the average turnaround time from our posting of the job? And I know that there's a difference, I would hope that there's a difference between, or maybe I assume there's a difference between an internal posting versus an external one. So what's the turnaround time from posting to fulfilling and putting somebody into the position?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. For an external hire, we're usually about a month and a half to 2 months, and that's posting the position, gathering the applications, reviewing applications, interviewing, which our interview process is at least 3 interviews. So if you can imagine scheduling for these interviews and the impacts to calendars sometimes can get a little tricky. But we can usually get somebody from the time of posting a position and putting somebody in the seat within about a month and a half to 2 months, which is fairly quick for public agency. Now, if it's an internal promotion, that goes much quicker. We can usually get that done within 2 to 3 weeks.
Internally, it's open for a week for internal candidates to
Okay.
apply. And so that can go really fast. After after the week, Candy comes to me and we talk about, did we get internal candidates? And, do we want to now open it up to the public, or are we happy with the internal candidates? So I make that decision based on qualifications of the applicants. Sometimes we don't have any applicants internally.
Right, no, but this is great and information and very helpful as we look at our projections, right? And how we are going to move our workforce forward and take care of things. I think the retirements, it's really great, I think people are staying longer, they're retiring later, and I think that has a lot to do with satisfaction in job. It has to do with pay. If people like where they're coming and what they're doing on a daily basis, they want to keep doing it, right? So this is really great information. Have you done a potential calculation of people who are retirement eligible for, say, the next 5 years, of what those numbers look like?
We have, and we look at that regularly. And I just gave that information to our executive management staff and team. But
Yeah,
we're continually looking at what's our risk of anybody leaving the organization, what are our retirements, the potential for retirements. Retirements are typically people who are 55 years of age, excuse me, and have at least 10 years of service with the agency, which qualifies most for retiree benefits as they leave the organization. So that's, the scope that we're looking at, but not the only piece of information. So we're always looking and scanning every one of our departments to make sure we understand who's engaged, who's happy, who might be leaving, and why. And we try and mitigate that if possible, but also we turn that into succession planning so we have enough bench strength
There we go.
to fill those positions as people leave our organization.
And thank you for saying that, because that's kind of where my path was leading. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to really ring your bell, because sometimes you guys really don't do that well, okay? But succession planning and giving people the opportunity to train up to something else or laterally move over to something that may be more interesting to them is something that is offered and is done on a frequent basis. And so I don't know if you want to give a little flavor of some of the steps that you've taken to create that, or who would like to say that? Because I think it's a good story to tell.
Well, we came to the last finance committee meeting and did a lengthy presentation on succession planning and provide a report to the board. So we're happy to give that, another copy of that to the board if they would like to review that again. But we're constantly working on succession planning, because as a relatively small agency, we're not like the county of Riverside, where we've got thousands and thousands of employees with thousands of opportunities to kind of change where you're going. And, I tell staff, if you go in the lunchroom at the county of Riverside, there's probably a long, long list of promotional opportunities at any one time. And because we're smaller, we just don't have that. So we're constantly thinking about changes that we can make within the organization, the people in the organization themselves, who needs to be, you know, how we need to be moving people around to fill our vacancies. And so it's just a constant effort, and we talk about it a lot. You know, I think when I started here, Candy and I would talk, and people would give us 2-week notice that they're gonna retire. And we're like, why? Why don't they help us plan? And now we get a year notice from people, or 6 months, or 9 months. They're like, hey, just letting you know, I'm thinking about retiring. And we have some people that say they're thinking about retiring, and they don't for 10
then they
years.
They
They
change their
keep
mind.
telling us,
Right.
you know,
That's okay.
someday.
And that's okay.
Which is, no, to me, it's great.
Yeah.
Because we've somehow turned the message, I don't know how, that, no, you're not like a second-class employee if you say you're gonna retire. You know, we like to think that we're celebrating your career, and we want you to exchange all your knowledge
Right.
to the next generation who's gonna do that work. And so I think that the employees understand that now, and, you know, now I think they're kind of happy and proud that they're retiring, and they had good service, and they want to share with the rest of the employees. So I really like the position that we're in.
Absolutely.
The other thing I'll add about this now requirement that we have to do this report is, we were watching this last year in the legislature, and, you know, it was really a tough bill for a while, because the bill was trying to force us to hire people without going through processes. It's like, you will not have vacancies. You're just gonna hire people. And we're like, whoa, that doesn't fit for us. But I think the target of the legislation was for big organizations that might have hundreds of vacancies on the books that they're not taking action on. And so you can tell from our vacancies on the books. Go back one more slide.
Yeah.
One more.
One more. There you go.
There you go. Number of vacancies. We got 8. Only
And
4 of
four of
those.
them are brand new.
Yeah, only 4 of those
Right.
are holes in
Right.
the organization. What this legislation is, I guess, afraid that we're not doing anything with. That's not the case. You know, Candy literally is sending the job description to the manager who lost an employee, sometimes the day that employee announces, so that we can modify that job description and get out on the street or get it internally. So the legislation, you know, I get what some groups were trying to accomplish. We kind of look at this and go, all right, we'll check the box that we did this, but we're very comfortable with our practice of how we fill vacancies. I certainly would like to hear from the board if the board thinks we need to do anything differently, but, you know, I think we're in a really good spot.
And this is why I asked the question, because I think the public needs to know the tremendous amount of effort that we put, the energy we've put into this, and the investment that we've put into our employees to ensure that this is what we have as an outcome. And I think that's why, that's why I asked you guys the question, because I think it needs to be on the record for our board meeting and anybody that might be listening out there, that this is what we do, and we've got a great story to tell and results that back it up. So I thank you for that. Thank you for putting these numbers out. This is great information, and it's very, very helpful as we, move forward in looking what we're doing, if there are changes or improvements, and I think you guys are doing a great job. So, Madam President, with that, I'll move the item.
I'll second, but I do have something to add. I just want to, I'm going to piggyback off what Craig said about this legislation. Good or bad, it at least gives Western a platform to show the great job that we're doing. It, oh my God, how do I say it? It reinforces the awards that we get in I don't know what it's called.
Employee
Best-
satisfaction.
The employee satisfaction, best workplace awards, whether we like the legislation or not, it gives us a chance to shine, because this is huge, 4.5% in this economy. And if you go to the next slide with the previous years, this was like, these 4 years are like, were the toughest years of my life. and just in general. And so for us to hold these numbers so closely and so low is huge. And I want to just point at kind of like what Director Dent said, is like point at the things that are working. That I see, obviously from the dais mostly, but the cross-training program, unmatched. I don't think I've ever seen a cross-training program that takes someone from a very different classification and somehow they end up in finance, right? Like it's huge. The telework policy, where everyone's trying to nix, you guys use that as an opportunity to say, okay, does it make you happy? How can we work together to keep work happening, but realizing that it was a good it was a good thing. I mean, a good thing that happened for some folks, right? The leadership trainings, not only, I think the most important thing about our leadership trainings is that it wasn't just for Craig and his AGMs, right? It was for, it went to, and I don't know the org chart, I don't have it memorized like that, but it went to then the EMT, then now it goes to the supervisors, and I'm assuming at some point it'll go even district-wide, I'm assuming. But that's huge. Who invests in their employees like that? It unheard of, and I think that's great. The recruitment process, as you mentioned, 2 months in government in this economy again, that's crazy. So kudos to you and your team, Candy. And I think one thing that the career fairs, obviously the exposure that we do to education, being at the schools, and that's huge too. But one thing that I think you do well, the HR team, your management team, and then you, because I know you interview everyone, is a culture fit. You say, do they fit in the culture? And that, if to not only be able to flow a position and get it done in 2 months, you're also assessing something that most agencies wait until a year, later to see if it worked out, and that's huge. And like again, it just reaffirms these awards, these accolades that Western gets for being such a great workplace. And I think I've said it before. Like 99% of my DMs and messages is like, I applied to Western. Where are they open? So people want to work here. People want to stay here, and that's a big deal. So great work and great report.
Thank you.
I seconded, right?
Yes.
You did.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I just want to make sure that the motion is clear that we're receiving the verbal report on the vacancies.
That's what
Okay,
she said.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and
If I could, before a vote,
yes,
a thing that is really different about Western is we're not looking just for somebody who's technically qualified. We look really hard for somebody who's a good fit. And an awful lot of organizations, that look doesn't happen till during the probationary period. And if you're a bad fit, for whatever reason, maybe you don't make it past probation. Or maybe you just say, this is a bad fit, I'm going somewhere else. We have so little of that because we put more effort into making sure that somebody's going to be a good fit and be happy here and be productive here. And so we spend the time up front. I think we could hire faster, but we wouldn't hire as well. So thank you
I
for that.
agree.
okay, any other comments? All right, I think we're ready for the vote, please.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Dinstedt, Director Risby,
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
okay.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to item B, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong, oh no,
No,
that's
you're right.
correct.
We can adopt this.
Adopt Resolution 3367, recognizing the week of October 4 to October 12, 2025 as Water Professionals Appreciation Week.
Well, as you can tell, Grace Cardenas is here to talk about
I
this.
came up
But
right away.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
going to give her a lead in. Sorry, Grace.
No, go ahead.
But to me, this follows on with what Director Torres was just saying. And we think it's really important to appreciate our employees. And, adopt a resolution board to tell the employees, that they're doing a good job. But, to us, it's way more important than that.
Yeah.
It's the effort. And, I will go and talk about employee appreciation to the all-hands meeting. and Grace and her team, you're gonna see a nice little video, but, they put a lot of effort into appreciating everyone for what they do. And so, Grace, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Craig. Good morning, Board of Directors. I'm here today to speak on Resolution 3367, recognizing the week of October 4th through October 12th, 2025 as Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Led by the Association of California Water Agencies, these water agencies from across the state are passing resolutions to find ways to demonstrate appreciation to their water professionals. As you know, water professionals come from a very diverse backgrounds and specialties, from wastewater treatment plant operators to accountants, from engineers to environmental scientists, information technology specialists to communicators, and so many more different fields that we have represented across Western Water. And so every person here at Western Water and at agencies across the state are needed to ensure that essential water and wastewater services is provided to all Californians 24/7, 365 days a year. To celebrate here, we're doing quite a few things next week. We're planning to spotlight our employees on social media, as we always do. We come up every year trying to find new creative ideas and ways to kind of engage the public in that celebration. We're also going to leverage the week to build pride internally. We have a newsletter going out with a nice video. You'll see the short version today, and then we have a longer version. And then we're also recognizing them at the next all-hands meeting at the end of October. And so for you all, it's a great opportunity for board engagement in celebrating professionals too. So you can share our content on social media as well. And finally, we've included a video that we've created in-house to help demonstrate our support for Western Water's professionals.
At Western Water, we know that none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the people that make it happen every day.
Your dedication keeps our system running smoothly.
Your creativity helps us solve challenges in new ways.
And your commitment makes a difference to our community every single day.
Together, you are the strength of Western Water.
We appreciate everything you do.
The community thanks you.
We couldn't do this without you.
You are the heart of Western Water.
Thank
you,
you,
Western Water
Professionals.
Professionals.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, in conclusion, staff is recommending the board pass resolution 3367 and join water agencies across the state in formally recognizing Water Professionals Appreciation Week. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. That video, and I'm happy that you stressed that was done in-house. The caliber of our videos just keeps getting better and better and better, and it's amazing to me. So, so thank you for that.
Yeah,
And I love all the appreciation. So before we, there may be other comments, but before we do a motion, when I was reading over this last night, so I want to acknowledge, I know a lot of work goes into all of our items on our agenda with the staff letters and the backup reports and PowerPoints and all of that. But there's something to me very special about resolutions that honor either a person or a week or a day or whatever it is. And I know that a lot of thought goes into how those are written, and a lot of them become like historical documents. I remember this even from city council. Our city clerk wrote beautiful resolutions, and I always learned something from them. So as I was looking at this last night, I thought, it's great, it's in our packet, but I want to actually have the board read it out loud into the record. And the way I would like to do that, once we have our motion, is start out with the first whereas and just start with Director Gardner and just go the first whereas, the second whereas. You're going to skip me because it was kind of an odd number of whereases, and then go here, and then go back to Director Gardner and finish, and then I'll finish up at the very end. And that was another thing that we would do on occasion at city council with, when we were bringing someone up to, honor them with a resolution, the council would read the different parts. And I just, it's good for us to hear it, it's good for it to be on the public record, and I hope that the employees will realize how much sentiment and meaning there is behind how we feel through this resolution. It's just, it just really struck me for some reason when I went through it. But, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt a resolution 3367, recognizing the week of October 4 to 12. Okay, we have a motion and a
I
second.
want to state for the record, I'm dyslexic, so.
Okay.
I haven't, but I'm happy to read. I'm just, before everyone laughs at the slow kid. No.
Are you okay with that?
I'm
or
fine.
do
I'm
you-
perfectly fine with it. I
Okay,
just want,
all right.
I want everyone to know.
No, I appreciate knowing that.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. So should we read it and then vote, or should we vote and then read it? I don't know if
It
there's
is a board president's prerogative.
We should probably read it first.
Okay, let's read it. Let's read it. So we will start with the first whereas with Director Gardner.
Okay. Whereas water is the lifeblood of California, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high-tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive and expand. And
Whereas, now more than ever, the water industry is proud of the important role of our essential workers play in making sure our communities are safe and reliable drinking water. And
Whereas, thanks to technological advances by highly skilled and trained water professionals and the dedication of thousands of industry professionals in the state, California's drinking water and treated wastewater meets some of the most stringent water quality standards in the nation. And
Whereas, depending on where you live in California, your water may come from a nearby well or river, or it may travel hundreds of miles through canals or pipelines to reach your tap. Regardless of where it originates, your drinking water is filtered, cleaned, tested, and distributed in a process carefully managed by trained water professionals. And
whereas California is steadily expanding the reuse of treated wastewater and pioneering the use of advanced purified recycled water to replenish aquifers, prevent seawater intrusion, and improve local water supply reliability. And
whereas water professionals at local public water and wastewater agencies work 24/7, 365 to plan for the future, maintain and upgrade their systems, and improve the safety and resiliency of local water supplies for their communities. And
whereas, according to the Public Policy Institute of California, local public water and wastewater agencies invest more than $25 billion a year in local water-related programs and projects that protect public health and the environment, improve local water supply reliability, replenish and clean up groundwater basins, provide water for fire protection, and protect against floods. And
whereas thousands of essential water, wastewater, and recycled water industry professionals in the state dedicate their careers to keeping drinking water, recycled water, and treated water safe and reliable for the use by Californians and the environment. And
Now, therefore, be it resolved on this first day of October 2025 that the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors hereby recognizes October 4 to 12, 2025 as Water Professionals Appreciation Week and extends its sincere gratitude and appreciation to the water and wastewater professionals who work 24/7, 365 to provide exceptional essential services to our community every day, adopted this first day of October 2025. With that,
could I ask if the maker of the motion would consider a friendly amendment that we include enlarging this and printing it and framing it and putting it in the lobby?
I
oh,
will
love it.
I will make that amendment. So our water professionals have a little bit more work to do. But yes, I will make that amendment.
And who
I will
seconded?
second
Oh, okay.
that
Okay.
amendment into the motion.
I do want to say thank you, Laura, for making us do that. That was really cool. I loved reading about the work that they're doing and
Yeah.
so close to us, so thank you.
Yeah.
Are we ready for the vote?
Yes.
We are.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Dinstedt,
Aye.
Director Risby,
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Board. That was very nice. And you've given me a really good thing to share with the employees and all hands.
Good.
So that's great.
Good, good. Yeah, I was a little leery because I thought, uh-oh, I'm going off script. Craig's going to be nervous.
No. Grace is nervous. I'm fine.
All right.
She's hanging it up.
Okay, we'll go on to item C, adopt a resolution and authorize the associated actions necessary to establish and fund a Section 115 trust to pre-fund pension obligations to the California Public Employees Retirement System.
All right, thank you very much, President Roten. This is I'm really proud to bring this to the board. You know, this is an opportunity that we have to do something with our finances to make our reserves and our good stewardship by this board of our customers' investment in water to actually save them quite a bit of money over the long run. And so this is something that Rick brought to me and said, I think we can do this. And we went out and checked the industry and obviously made sure it was legal to do, but it's also been done by other agencies that have a very strong financial position. And so been through the committees, we've talked about it twice at committees, and now we're finally able to bring it to the board for consideration. So with that, let me hand it over to Rick.
All right, thanks, Craig. And good morning, board members. You'd think Craig and I coordinated some comments here, but it just naturally worked out that way. I'm equally excited to be able to bring this forward, specifically the item to create a 115 trust and to fund it. To me, it represents, frankly, decades of prudent decisions, hard decisions by management and the board that put us into a position to even be able to do this. And on my team, months of work, specifically by Veronica and her team, to do all the analytical and research work to put a specific plan before you, which is what we've been hearing about. But as Craig was mentioning, this really represents a decision to more strategically use our existing cash resources to directly benefit our customers for at least 20 years, if not more. So decades of work to get here and decades of benefit ahead of us. So now that I've sufficiently talked it up, we'll move to the next slide and talk about what we're going to cover today. Overall, we'll cover first, well, what is the plan and how does it benefit us? That really came out of the August discussion with the Finance Committee. This last month in September, which we'll cover again just briefly, the administrative elements, there are some documents that are being approved today. What do those do? Some highlights there. You have a resolution, a trust agreement, and a funding policy statement, and some assignment of responsibility, which is always fun for people like me. And then there is a specific investment strategy that we're doing with this 115 Trust that's tailored to Western's needs. Cover that again to make sure we understand what's going on there. It drives a lot of the numbers. And then lastly, what is specifically being asked to the board today, since this is a final action, and then wrap up with questions. Next slide. So the plan, what are we talking about here? Ultimately, it's to do two big things, which is to create a new legal entity called the 115 Trust and to fund it to work forward, as well as all the things in order to implement the action. Where does 115 come from? It's a section of IRS code that allows for us to do things like this. We don't get creative in our field, so we just pull straight from it. So 115 Trust. So this is geared around funding pension obligations for retirees. We already have a VEBA trust, another acronym, and that's for retiree health benefits. So both are retirement-related with benefits. One's pension, one's health benefits. So we already have the VIBA Trust, and that's been operating successfully for years now. And so this is very, very similar to that, but with a specific focus on pension. So we feel a little more comfortable because not only do we have a successful history with the VIBA Trust, but really the industry does, both with this and 115s, especially when you look over long periods of horizons to invest money. The trust is irrevocable, and what that means is when you put money in it, it can only be used for pension expenses. The sort of good news, bad news is those expenses don't go away, so it's not like we're not going to have pension expenses next year. So there's a directed purpose for that going forward. And if we needed to, we've talked about this in previous sections, we can accelerate the drawdown if we absolutely had to. We don't foresee that happening by being able to reimburse ourselves for current costs rather than just the pension liability. The plan would be to contribute $25.2 million from our available general district reserves. These are reserves that were first came in from property taxes. That's $25 million of the $80 million that's in the general district fund that's available. Of the, you see the number on our standard reports, about $330 million in the overall investment portfolio. That $80 million represents probably the largest portion, single portion of those reserves, and the most available for us to decide what to use. Generally, you'll hear from me, don't spend them down. And that's really goes hand in hand with our strategy to get AAA funding or AAA credit rating, which we just got, and helps preserve our ability to issue debt at the lowest rates. This is a strategic use where you're taking existing funding and paying off debt. So it's seen as not only appropriate but smart. So we would take those reserves, put it into the trust, and then from then on out, use the trust money to pay our CalPERS, essentially debt payments, our annual debt payments, that we would normally be paying from rate money. And so that's the other piece that I'll get into. By putting in the $25 million into the trust and investing it in the future, you're functionally eliminating our pension debt. Now, I say that because we still have to make the payments, but you have a set-aside portion of funds for it. It's our highest cost debt at 6.8% is what CalPERS charges us. You compare that to like our normal bonds, which in today's market, let's say 4%, or when we get special funding from like the state with SRF or other ones, that could be 1 or 2.5%. So 6.8 is pretty high, and this is why it's a strategic action to pay that down. It saves us a considerable amount of money in today's dollars, not just gross future dollars, over what's estimated period of about 18 years. So we say saves at least $4.2 million, and what that means is we're talking about contributing $25 million. It would have to be $29 million if we just set it aside in our normal portfolio, investing like we normally would, earning lower interest rates. So we would have to use another $4 million today in order to get the same benefit. But we get this higher benefit from being able to invest in things other than just bonds like we normally do, but funds that look into the stock market as well, just like we do with VIBA. And ultimately, all of this is so that the savings go to directly benefit our customers. And so, like I mentioned, normally we pay our current bill is about $3 million a year, splitting up that payment over our different retail funds. So Riverside Retail, the sewer funds, these kinds of things. Rate money is paying this. And so ultimately, investment earnings and previously tax money would go to pay that bill in the future. And what that does for us is it provides us some breathing room for things like when Metropolitan decides what large projects it's going to do, which aren't currently in their rates, but we know is coming down the line, or other cost increases we haven't anticipated. It might mean that we don't have to do a pass-through increase that we would otherwise do, or we would do less of one. Certainly it will benefit us when we do the next 4-year rate study. And so it's a direct way of doing an action today that will benefit our customers in the future. Next slide. So on the administrative pieces, I'll just touch on this because it's not the most exciting part, and we've covered it. So you have a few key documents. The resolution that's being asked to be approved would approve a trust agreement, and what that does is it creates the trust. It's legally designed to meet all the things we need to do to qualify as a 115 trust with the IRS. Specifically, it's kind of the operating guideline for the trustee. It says, trustee, these are all of your roles and responsibilities, and the trustee will hold us to that in the future to say, this is my job, this is not my job. So it's an important document in that way. And it specifically says we can only use this money for pension obligations in the future. That's the irrevocable part. Next slide. You will see a funding policy. This is the same as an investment policy. We already have an investment policy for our main portfolio. We have an investment policy separate for Aviva, and now we need a separate one for the 115 Trust. And you have a separate one because there are different strategies and goals with this one versus the other portfolios. This is long-term in nature. We're looking at about a 20-year time horizon, which means that we can invest in things we wouldn't normally in the portfolio, which is how this works. So not just bonds, but things like stocks as well. But we do that through like mutual funds type thing, not individual stocks. It has a goal of preserving capital, but knowing that when you get into things like stocks, there's more risk. And so that's why it's a long-term time horizon. And then specifically, it acknowledges that with this investment strategy, we're going to be taking money out of the fund every year over time. So we need to be able to liquidate funds and pull it out. Other investment strategies for other funds might say, we're trying to hold on to as much as possible and just grow it. And then it gives us a benchmark that helps us to evaluate Chandler's performance going forward that matches up with the types of investments we have here. Next slide. It assigns myself with lots of new roles and responsibilities in my other duties it's assigned, but specifically to administer the trust since it's so financially related. And then mostly the key here is bringing back to you all, when we do investment performance, you'll see a whole new report with how this is doing as well as our other investments. And then assigns me to set up controls to make sure that we're protecting what's in the trust going forward. Next slide. So I talked about $4 million in savings, but that was getting at comparing to what we would do if it was just sitting in our normal portfolio. To give you a scope of the full benefit here of what we're talking about is putting $25 million in the trust today covers roughly $39 million in future payments. And so that's the value of time in investing in compound investments over time. And so huge benefit. And if you think of that $39 million, that's what our ratepayers would have otherwise been paying over those 18 years. So the specific sort of strategy here recognizes that we are drawing down the fund over time. So we start out with what we would consider more risky or more volatile, which means something like a 70-30 portfolio or 60-40, meaning more stocks than bonds. And over time, that starts being more bonds than stocks because you want to make sure you have enough money at the end to pay the remaining obligations, especially when the fund gets smaller and smaller in balance. That's different than the VIVA, which we just essentially hold on to the main portion of funds and it's more stable. We don't intend to draw that down in some specific fashion, just covering the obligations as they come up. So you start out with something like an assumed 7% earnings rate. At the end, you're assuming something like 5%. Overall, we expect to earn about mid-6s as an average interest rate over time. So wrapping up with the next slide. So what is being asked of the board is really to approve the resolution that's before you, and it, in essence, puts into place all of these actions, but those actions are to approve the trust document, to approve the funding statement, to approve the $25.2 million going into the trust from the general fund reserves, and it acknowledges that we're appointing Chandler as our investment advisor, and U.S. Bank, who is the trustee for Aviva, also is the trustee for the 115 Trust. And I'll open up to questions.
I don't have questions, but I think this is an innovative approach. I mean, it has been done, but it's not widely used in our industry. We're fortunate to be in a position where we're able to do it, and it makes absolute sense. I congratulate you on bringing it forward, and Craig, you letting him do it. This is the kind of thing that makes Western stand out among public agencies. It's just a really good idea, and I will move the staff recommendation.
Second. But I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
I love the employee theme of today's board meeting. I had one question. You said that you will be administering the trust. Is it you or is it your position?
Position.
Okay, and that was my only question. Other than that, this is amazing.
One comment on Director Gardner's comment. So the 115 is not a new thing, and other districts do. But I was talking with Chandler, with Dan, and he asked, is anybody else doing the specific thing that you're doing, which is essentially to take long-term reserves and specifically dedicate towards using them rather than ratepayer revenue, like dedicating this as a resource? And that, I said, I haven't heard of that before. So it's a strategic use to directly benefit customers that's built into how this is designed. And so that is definitely reflective of Western's values in putting customers first.
Awesome.
There's a couple other questions.
I just had a question. So will Chandler Asset Management be overlooking it, or how does that work? Or you
Yes.
will be managing and they'll be, or how does?
So typical for us is, so I oversee Chandler, they do all the day-to-day investing.
Okay.
According to the investment policy, which is their guidebook.
Okay.
And what they're allowed to do.
And what you'll see is the same type of reporting that we get for the VEBA trust.
VEBA trust, okay.
So this will just be another chapter in that report out process.
That's perfect. Those reports are too short.
Yep.
Oh, boy, today is interesting. Okay. Couple of questions. So I guess my first question is going back to the irrevocable part and talking about what that actually means on a legal standpoint, because eventually, 5 of us are not going to be sitting up here. It's going to be another 5 people, right? Yeah, well, I don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe eventually. I don't know. But what is the legal ramifications should another board want to unwind this? I mean, are we permanently tying hands to having to keep this in place? In other words, what happens in 2 years if we decide that this isn't really showing us the benefit that we thought it would? And it's just a question. I just want to know the what ifs.
How revocable is irrevocable?
Right. So
Right.
a couple of ways I can answer this.
Okay?
So the primary one is the trust. So you think of this like separate account. That is irrevocable in the sense that it can only ever be used for pension expenses, which we will always have. So that's where to allay your concerns. It's not like we're setting it aside for a project that we may not do in the future, and then we're stuck setting that aside. Now, on the, if it's not working in the sense of our investment performance, our strategy in doing that, we can change that at any time. We can put it all in cash if we wanted to for the rest of the future and just pay it like we would out of a checking account. Not that we would, but the point being is nothing restrains any future board from saying, this is too risky, we don't like what's going on, we want to get less risky, we want to do something different. It can just, the restriction is it can only ever just be used to pay CalPERS, again, which will always have a payment to pay.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, because granted, I was here when we did the VEBA, right? And when we set that up, and that was the whole new thing, and it was kind of bridging over some thing that wasn't done, at least by Western before. And so I get the investment, I get that. I just want to make sure that if there is something that's, it's like the shiny new thing that comes up, if there's something that's better and a better opportunity for us in 10 years, I don't want us to be tied to something that we can't figure out how to unwind to move into something that may be bigger, better, faster, cheaper, whatever that is, for our future decision makers.
Well, and so the last way I would answer that question is if, so right now we're foreseeing our debt payments are about $3 million a year. So you take that out of the balance. But if for some reason we saw something else, that for whatever reason that we said we'd rather use the money on that thing, we can reimburse ourselves another 2 or 3 million in current costs, not the debt payment, just our normal annual, what we pay on behalf of employees covering our annual sort of contribution to their PERS. So we can draw it down even faster, is my point, by an extra 2 to 3 million per year. And then that would reimburse us, and then we could take that money and use it for whatever's the thing that the board wants to do. So we have flexibility,
Okay.
if we really needed it.
No, and that's really what I want to put out there, is that we have the ability, that this is kind of the best thing that we have in our wheelhouse right now to, kind of engage in, and then if there's something else that comes up later, we do have the options. In other words, we're not planted here forever if we choose not to be. The only other thing, and this is not a reflection on the performance or the relationship that we've had with Chandler at all. However, we periodically go out into the market and get an RFP for proposals. So is this permanently tying us to Chandler, or do we still have that option to be able to make changes should another investment company at some point in the future, or Chandler goes away, or whatever? Do we have the ability to be able to move into our standard practice of kind of going out to the market and seeing who's giving us the best opportunities at any given time?
Yes, so Chandler's just being appointed at the moment because they're our current investment manager. We'd follow our normal practice of going back out. If at any time we select a different one in a competitive procurement, you would assign them to all of our investments, including this as well. There's nothing that ties us to Chandler in the future.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions, thank you.
All right, and I think there were some other questions?
Mine was
No?
answered.
I do have two. One, I guess, is an observation. I so appreciate our committee structure because, especially with an item like this where it's new and it's complicated, and it helps me to hear it more than once. So today is the day that it sunk in that we previously, up till now, have been covering this through ratepayer money, and now it's pulled from our reserves, which basically is property tax money, which makes it, in my opinion, more equitable to everyone that's served by Western, no matter if you're a direct ratepayer or not. So I really appreciate that, and it's sort of one of those light bulb moments. The other thing I have, and I noticed this before, and I don't know why I didn't ask about it. So I just want to make sure I understand. So we put the money in today, and I'm looking at the graph on, that has the bar graph, investment strategy and projection. So eventually, it runs out, which I understood that. I mean, that makes sense. You're not gonna have the same amount of money after 20 years. So is this something that, and again, I guess this is hypothetical, in 10 years or 15 years, like the board would possibly look at this and say, oh, do we want to redo this and start again, by putting in a bigger chunk again and doing, or does it just run, or it's a finite program and at the end of it, we're done?
So this reflects the understanding from CalPERS that that's as many years of payments as we have. So it was designed to cover their current projection of future payments. The trouble with CalPERS is they're just projections. And these numbers, we even saw that this year. We thought it was 24, then it was 25. They get updated based on a lot of different factors, like how long people live and what they're making when they retire and these kinds of things. So the numbers will change in the future. I mean, what we assume is liability, they go up and they go down. CalPERS has good years and bad years on investments. The goal was to have some set-aside money to help balance that out, so we're not increasing rates one year because the number went up and then decreasing rates. So by having it sort of separated, it gives us a lot of stability in our budgeting also going forward. That being said, if there are more payments beyond this because the numbers get updated, we may ask in a few years to go, we should probably contribute a couple million more to do this. Or in reverse, if somehow we do so well in investments that we pay off the balance faster, then we go, oh, well, we can start paying some of our share of current costs that we weren't anticipating we could do. So These will be flexible, but it's not like it's a finite program. It's just what we anticipate we need today, based on what we know now.
Okay, so am I hearing that eventually CalPERS could be paid off?
For past service, that's, yeah, the unfunded liability.
Unfunded liability.
Unfunded oh my gosh, okay. This is very confusing.
Not our annual bills to contribute on behalf of our employees for their current service.
Okay,
yes.
okay, that makes it more clear to me. Great, thank you. I'm all for this. I mean, I'm not questioning whether or not we should do it. I'm just trying to understand a little better, so. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we didn't do a motion yet.
We do. We have
We
a motion and a
have a
We have a
second.
motion and
yeah.
a second,
Yep,
okay.
yep,
Oh,
we're ready.
do we have any public comments? Because I forgot to ask that on the last one.
We do not, and we've had no public comments for any of the items heard today.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I think we're ready for a vote.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Dinstadt,
Aye.
Director Rizvi,
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay. We will move on to item 8, reports. Mr. General Counsel, do you have a report today?
Good morning, Madam President. I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. General Manager, report, B1.
All right, yeah, I've got 2 items, so get a cup of coffee. This might be a little while. We're going to talk about accomplishments after I'm done with this, so.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I do have to head out, so, but I'll be watching. I wish I could be here.
Thank you. All right, SB 72 was officially enrolled and presented to the governor 2 p.m. on September 10th. So that means that he's got 30 days from that point. So October 13th is the deadline that we're watching. So we're all hands on deck to try and get letters and influence to the governor. And so that's going well. We are internally working on call to actions. CMUA just sent something out. I just saw something yesterday where the San Joaquin Blueprint, which is an association of agricultural entities in the San Joaquin Valley that are took a very strong support position, and we're urging the governor to sign the bill on social media. So we're pulling all the levers we got. So fingers crossed. And again, if you owe the governor a call on anything else, make sure that you mention SB 72 while you're talking to him. You may have heard the federal government is shut down now. So I've already got 2 emails from our grant funding programs that we're not going to get that money until the shutdown stops. We also, the OLDCC also sent us a notification that we're waiting for a notice to proceed on our sewer project, and we won't be getting that until there's no one to send that to us. So we'll keep working with that. Hopefully it's a short shutdown so it doesn't delay our project or our contract or anything else. But yeah, we're already seeing a few impacts that hopefully. Yeah, so we will see how long that lasts. Recent activities for me. Western Water Leaders Luncheon on September 18th. Really good to continue to have these luncheons and pushing leadership. I attended the Water Reuse Conference 2 weeks ago. Great opportunity to catch other general managers at that conference. That was really beneficial. You go to talk about reuse and you end up in the hallway the whole time talking about a whole lot of other issues. We did have our annual pancake breakfast on the 24th. That was really fun. That's the leadership team makes breakfast for all the rest of the employees. We got together as an EMT last Friday and spent the day with Nate Sussman working on our next level of leadership and how we're going to implement different elements and improve our leadership. We always need to improve. We're not as good as we can be, so we're constantly working on that. And that was the EMT. The WMT, the Western Management Team, met yesterday with Nate. So I think were they in here? Yes. Is this where they were? I was up at Met yesterday, so I didn't get to see them. So really proud of that group, and they're working really hard, and they're always in a tough situation. They're they're like the sandwich, they're the meat in the middle of the sandwich, because they have people that are in that meeting that want to be in the field doing actual construction work and things, but then they have to think about all these management elements. So it's kind of a tough road for them. Had a meeting also on Monday with CMUA Executive Committee. So as the president of CMUA, we're addressing a couple of key issues that we've kind of launched on, and one is a governance issue. CMUA has an interesting structure on their board, is that you serve a limited term on the board. And it's not, I serve a limited term, our agency serves a limited term on the board. I'm just the one who sits there. But the governance says you have to rotate off. And I'm not sure what the thought process is when they initiated that, but what they didn't think through is they're going to run out of members to be on the board, because eventually they'll run through everybody and they won't have a board anymore. So we're gonna change that.
Yeah, that's odd.
The thought was new blood, bring in ideas, don't let certain agencies dominate what's going on. Those are all good things, but we're gonna run out of board members. So we'll change that. We got all kinds of ideas on how to do that. Really been busy at Metropolitan. So on the 19th, we had a member agency, we had an all day meetings at Met. Member agency managers, where Met staff kind of previews what's going to be coming to the board and the committees on some really key issues. So we did talk about camp. We talked about the progression of golden mussels. So I'm sure Director Denstead knows all about this. The rest of the board probably hasn't heard a lot about this, but you'd heard about quagga mussels, well, now golden mussels. And quagga mussels didn't really work their way through the State Water Project because the water quality didn't promote their growth. But we found an invasive species that does well in the State Water Project water quality. It's the golden mussel. So it's migrated its way all the way now into Silverwood. So it has come through the State Water Project. What does that mean? That there's regulatory steps that Metropolitan and the State Water Project have to take, because you can't just push invasive species throughout the state and all the waterways. The state is trying to control that, so they have to have control measures. So this will translate into additional costs for Metropolitan to try and mitigate golden mussel growth. I did sit down with Devin Upadhyay, Met General Manager, talk about numerous issues, primarily Camp for Water and portfolios. Yesterday, we had a GM roundtable at Metropolitan where Devin actually calls just the member agency managers into a 2-hour meeting. We talk about upcoming issues, a little bit more of the politics generally of Metropolitan, and big issues, and we're talking about budget and rates and things like that. They're still a long way out on the Met calendar. We took the opportunity to meet with our Inland Empire Met Caucus general managers up there yesterday also, to really talk about camp and where we're going and project scoring. And we're making a big push not to score individual projects, but to develop project portfolios, because that's how things really get built. You don't build just pure water, for example, and not other projects. You have to combine a bunch of projects to meet your needs. And so we're really pushing hard to have a logical portfolio process, so the Met board fully understands the decisions that they're making on individual projects and how they relate to other projects at Met to meet our long-term reliability needs. Following that, we did have the Camp for Water Task Force yesterday afternoon. 3 hours? Something like that. Yep. And it's a big policy discussion. And a little frustrating, our director shows up or is there listening, but we couldn't get a quorum. Director Denstead's not on the committee, so she was just doing this out of the sheer interest in watching what's happening. But it's really unfortunate. We couldn't get a quorum of the committee members. Still have the meeting. There's just really no action to take, so, legal counsel lets us have it, but shoot, it sure would be nice. We're doing this for the benefit of the board members to aid their decision-making process, so a little frustrating for the general managers, because we are putting in an enormous amount of work and time with our staffs. Josh and Ryan and Sarah and Tim are all participating in portfolios along with the staff of every other member agency. And shoot, it would be great if people were listening.
Can I chime in for just a second? I sat here yesterday. I didn't drive to Met because I'd had a long drive week, so I decided I wasn't going to make the drive, but I was going to listen to the meeting. I was very disappointed to see that my colleagues who are assigned to that committee did not show up. They had, 3 actual committee members, I think, that showed up?
Yeah,
I think
maybe
it was-
4.
I think it was 3. To not have people show up and be a participation in that important process that's crafted for us to make future decisions at Metropolitan, and then have at least, I was going to say about 80%, 85% of the GMs for the agencies that were assigned to that show up, is really disappointing to me. And when I go up to Metropolitan this next week, I am going to ask the question and ask the why. And that maybe there is just a lack of interest, maybe it's time commitments, maybe whatever it is, but it's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound, and you need to kind of commit to it. So I just want to thank Craig for staying true to the process, showing up in person, making the comments that he did, and continuing to work with your colleagues on trying to drive this forward. So.
Thank you. And in that spirit, we followed a long day at Met with a long dinner afterwards while we were up there, because it's a great opportunity to meet with GMs and strategize in a small group without doing it in front of the board and all of the staff. There's a lot of people, I'm complaining about the board members not being there, but there's certainly a large audience of staff, agency staff, consultants, watching what's going on. So Joe and Shivaji and Matt Litchfield from Three Valleys and I all went to dinner to kind of download on the day's actions and plan for future metropolitan issues. And what we are spending so much time doing as a group of member agency managers is collaborating. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the accomplishments, but we're in a really good space right now with member agency managers, and that we just sent a letter on the camp process and portfolios to the camp staff, camp leadership, and the general manager. We had 18 agencies sign on to our letter supporting what we're doing. I can't think of too many times where we've had 18 agencies sign on to anything at Metropolitan. And that's following all 26 member agencies signing on to a letter initiating the business model process. So from the GM side, we're seeing collaboration like I've never seen before in my career. So that's all I have on my updates. Any questions on that before I get into our accomplishments presentation? Okay. All right. So you heard from me in my annual review a lot of technical things that we've accomplished this year. We wanted to change this up a little bit since we're presenting at a board meeting to the public and turn the presentation a little more about, well, why are all these accomplishments really important for our customers and for our community? So you're going to hear a little more about that. I think you all have, how many pages? Yeah. Yeah, you got a lot of details.
We have a lot of pages.
For you detail-oriented people, as we say here, for all you greens in the audience, read away. But I'm going to try and keep it a little higher level. So, I want to share how Western continues delivering impact. There's a huge amount of unseen work that's going on backstage to make sure that you turn the tap on and every single time water comes out. I found it very interesting yesterday. Director Denstead, I'm sure, was listening very carefully. One of our board members said, well, maybe we should start talking about intermittent shutdowns of water service in the state of California. And I was like, are you kidding me? We are here to do everything we can possibly do to never let that happen. And I found it utterly shocking that someone brought up that, well, maybe we should just plan for intermittent shutdowns. I don't know. You're the board, but that's not part of my game plan as long as I'm here at Western. But, this is partnerships, it's investments, it's construction, it's planning, it's everything that we do to deliver affordable reliability to our customers. Next slide. So it's truly been a great year of impact. We're doing all we can to promote water to our customers, save money, and lower their costs, but ensuring reliability. And, this is what is coming out by that Met board member who's making that comment is, well, boy, all these projects are going to be expensive. If we build those, it's going to be really expensive, and maybe we shouldn't build them and just tell people we're not going to serve the water. And I'm like, no, this slide is what's going on and how we are working really hard to make it affordable. Investing in infrastructure, strengthening our partnerships. And, you've heard me talk about this a lot. Our partnership picture is enormous. It's statewide. It's, getting the San Joaquin blueprint to endorse SB 72. It's what we're meeting behind the scenes with general managers at Metropolitan, because we can't just ignore them, because they have to collaborate with us to build these projects and to build the right projects and to make sure that the whole Met family is reliable. And it's regional. Remember, we're not sitting on top of groundwater, but 40% of our supply to our retail customers is groundwater. So every drop of groundwater requires agreements and partnerships with our local entities. So partnerships, we talk a lot about it, but it's what's putting water on the table here. And then obviously grants. We're doing so much to try and, cut the cost to the end users. Next slide. So why are we going to California? Well, 60% of our water is coming from the other part of the state. If we're not up in Sacramento, we're in trouble. We can't just sit back and hope. So hope's not a strategy. Sarah told me that once. We need a plan, and so we have plans. And, that plan is we're going to take a leadership role in making sure we're in Sacramento fighting for our customers. Next slide. So as you've heard, we push hard. So we've got SB 72. You just heard it's on the governor's desk. In order to do that and put it in a strong position, there's been so much work behind the scenes to do that, including funding academic studies to prove our point. Because I think a lot of the general managers, we know that we have to continue to find water for our growing economy. But sometimes our legislators aren't in touch with that. They have a lot of other problems that they're trying to solve in Sacramento. So we saw that our path to success has to include educating people that aren't necessarily in the water industry as to how important water supply is and what the cost is if we don't do it. That's the part that we really focused on this year. It's like, what is the downside? You can delay these projects, and that was the conversation at Met. Maybe we shouldn't build these projects. Well, we've got data now from the UCs that have studied this that said $14.5 billion impact a year if you don't do that. So intermittent water service, just start the ticker on the economic impacts to our state. And then advancing Delta Conveyance Project, using our partnerships to really try and assist the governor and the state contractors and Department of Water Resources and Metropolitan to really educate the legislature and push the Delta Trailer bill. Unfortunately, it didn't move forward, but the good side of that is the level of knowledge in the capital of the Delta project right now is at an all-time high. It was actually a conversation in the capital where it hasn't been recently. Next slide. Maximizing regional representation. So, obviously getting Northern California water is important, but it's not just imported water, it's educating all of our partners, and it's our wholesale agencies that we represent. And when we go to Metropolitan, we're not speaking just for Western, we're speaking for the 14 different entities that potentially get water from us or take water from us. And some of those, it's 100% of their water. So if we're not doing a good job at Metropolitan, and if we're not doing a good job in understanding what they need and advocating for that, we're not doing our job. And part of that is, building that consensus in Southern California behind initiatives like California Water for All and SB 72. But it's also building that collaboration at the Met business model so that when we show up and 26 member agencies say, we're going to be here, there's a lot of background work that's gone on to build those friendships and to make that commitment that we're going to work together. And we're going to think about projects that aren't necessarily in the best interest of Western, but they may be because we want other entities to think about projects that are in the best interest of Western. And we want to make sure there's a give and take. Everyone gets a piece of the pie. Next slide. So the impact of all that is obviously, so let's talk about forging local partnerships. Next slide. I talked about developing regional partnerships to produce groundwater. That's not the only story. I mean, we're looking at creating more groundwater storage, working with Valley in the SBBA, working in Chino Basin, what's happening in Chino Basin, working with the whole Santa Ana River watershed. We work with Orange County Water District on their recharge activities through SAPA, and that's really paying off. We've seen big investment in stormwater capture in San Bernardino, representing our plaintiff parties. We've invested in wet year storage and programs. We've been purchasing, board gave me authority to buy $20 million worth of water. And we've done that. Where are we at? 8 million? 8 million. I don't know why Josh hasn't gotten the rest of it, but we're working hard. And yeah, well, we're making good investments, not rash decisions. And there's going to be a lot more talk about that. And I'm going to be coming back to the board and making sure, because we had a time limit on that, and so it's going to take us longer than you guys thought we'd be able to pull that off in. Next slide. We collaborate with the community, and I think it's really interesting. My job is to go and collaborate in Sacramento and at Met, but a huge part of what we're doing is collaborating with our communities. So the difference between talking to our community groups and talking in Sacramento or at Met in the business model, I just find very fascinating. And we've created this environment where we've built so much trust in our community, and the rate adjustment process was a really great example. We did so many presentations, and we did them in person because we wanted to be able to answer questions, and we didn't want to just send out a social media post. We wanted to stand in front of people and answer their questions. And as you can imagine, they're not water experts, nor do we expect them to be, and water is very, very complicated. So it was actually really beneficial for me to hear their questions. I think it was very beneficial for our communications staff who were there at every single presentation so that they can incorporate that into how we're reaching out and building those partnerships. We have a great relationship with our business community, with both the chambers in Riverside and in Murrieta, and that's paying big dividends. They reach out to us on issues. They invite us to speak at their events, which is great. And that's all about partnerships and collaborations. Next slide. And, you know, going alone, I don't think we would be in a good position. That collaboration makes us better together. And we're going to solve bigger things. And I actually said that at the Met meeting yesterday. The question was asked by the chair, you know, well, why should Met invest? Maybe you should all do this on your own as local entities. I was like, Western can't go up and build a new reservoir in Northern California to capture more rainwater because snowpack is likely going to start disappearing because of global warming. Metropolitan can, Sites Reservoir can, DWR can. We have to plan our investments on a big scale because that's where you get the unit cost benefits. And so together we can do that. Individually, we can't do that. So we're building those relationships. Next slide. Customers, and part of the reason for this, the way we're looking at this presentation is we have to make sure that we share with our customers what we're doing. Because, you know, we're operating in a little bit of a vacuum ourselves. You know, we don't have a room full of customers. But I think there's a point to that, is that there's trust. And let's go to the next slide. So, you know, we've been doing all these things. You know, you guys have seen the Water for Every Moment. It's a fabulous video. But there's such great meaning in that there's, you know, how much goes on behind the scenes. And then we build on that to have our community event out here, Waterworks Wonders. And, you know, it says here, 80 community events and sponsorships. You know, we're getting out and telling people our story in water, and that's paying off. Water for Every Moment has been viewed 71,000 times now. So it's a great tool. Next slide. Okay, well, so do you have any numbers? You know, General Manager says we're building trust in our community and awareness. Here you go. We go out and we quiz them. We ask, 22% gain in customer trust. Supported 70 public briefings related to rate proposals and the value of delivering service. That's a heavy lift. And really easy to not do that. You know, hats off to our communications team for driving that. You know, if the general manager was in charge, he'd say, that's a lot of work. So we really need to do that. But I think hopefully the board saw the benefit. We had almost an equal number of positive comments about the rate increases as we did negative comments, and we only had 7. I guess it wasn't equal. One was higher than the other. 7's an odd number. But, you know, those were some pretty significant rate increases to match what's happening in our economy with inflation. And we literally had support for doing that. So that was really cool. And the other thing is, you know, we're building our expertise in the region on community engagement. And that's coming back out in, like I said, these invitations to speak at conferences. We're getting reporters that are reaching out to us and asking us our comment on things that aren't directly related to Western necessarily. And that's all built on trust. Next slide. And it's confidence. And so I guess to the point I brought up, our room's not full of customers, I wish it was full of customers who think water was cool and they're here to support it. But what it's not full of is customers that don't trust us. And they're here watching our board and giving you the evil eye when you vote on things. And I would also say that, that trust allows us to move forward on projects, programs, and initiatives. If we didn't have that trust, we'd have people questioning everything we do and probably stopping our board from taking all the initiative that you take on big projects and programs that can be thought of as expensive. Next slide. All right, so customer service support. I like to simplifying it. Next slide. So our online portal is, I'll just say it's really cool. You can go in and watch your water use. You can get customer alerts. You can get leak alerts. You can say, oh my gosh, I'm spending too much money this month. I can see where my water use is. I'm going to turn off. Sorry, kids, no more showers this month. We're going too high. Sorry, husbands, no more showers. No clothes washing. Wear the clothes. You can do whatever you want with this portal. And, we had, I think, 3 strategic plans ago, the board said, give customers more control of their water use. And we're there. We're finally there. So really neat. Next slide. AMI meters is what allowed us to get there. So, we replaced 1,700 meters. The great news is our grant staff got us half the money to do that, $700,000 to do that. The customer benefit, 3,300 leak notifications. Sounds like that's not a great thing that we had 3,300 leaks, but we used to get calls in our customer service like, you guys are criminals, you're charging me so much money, look at my bill, it went up $500 from last month, we hate you. And we would say, you probably have a leak. Well, now we just pull the data for a day and we're like, look, here's where your leak started. We can tell you the time of day that your pipe broke. And people didn't believe us. They're like, you just say that because you're trying to get more money out of us. And we're like, no, we don't want your money. We want you to use water efficiently. And so fix your leak. And we'll even send someone out to help you find your leak for free. 36 million gallons of water saved because of these leak notifications valued at $166,000 to our customers. So not an enormous number, but tell a customer that you're going to share in $166,000 of increased water rate. It's important. Next slide. Our low-income assistance program, really important to staff, increased our participation by 12%, assisted 280 residents. I think it's really great. When I got here to Western, we couldn't get enough people to participate in it. I know the directors were like, hey, how come people aren't using this? We're offering it. We took the risk of putting it in our budget and adding it, or not adding it to our rates. We used non-ratepayer money, but we budgeted it. So why aren't people using it? Well, now we finally got them to use it. And we're not done. So we are, Rick and I have been talking about ways that we could tweak the program and kind of change it a little bit. So more to come on that in the future. Next slide. Impact of all those actions, more control by customers, more convenient, and saving money for our customers. And of confidence, it builds confidence. We now have data to support what we're telling our customers. That always helps. That builds trust. And so it's a really good thing. Next slide. Investment in reliability and resilience. So this is a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. This is more of the big picture stuff. How are we building projects? Next slide. Smarter, more efficient operations. Nobody likes leaks. Customers don't like leaks. We really don't like leaks because we have to shut customers off usually to fix a leak. Nobody likes a shutdown. Our staff is phenomenal at it. Our operations staff is amazing at working with our communication staff so that we can put a circle around all the customers on a map who are going to be shut off to fix something, and we can be proactive and send out alerts to them and door hangers. I said, you know, you're gonna be off until 10 o'clock tonight while we work on something. But that's expensive. When we gotta fix leaks as they're leaking, that's expensive. So we wanna avoid that. So we're spending about $5 million a year in proactive rebuilding and refurbishing our equipment, because quite frankly, it wears out and it fails. We think that's saved a lot of money. It's hard to put a number on that. If we look at energy reductions and chemical reductions, we've put our finger on about $500,000 worth of reductions that we've had recently. So it's all looking at saving costs and staying in service 24/7. Next slide. Reservoirs, you know, we've been doing a lot of work on reservoirs. These are like the heavy lifters of the water system. You know, without reservoirs, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. We recoat them. We've done seismic improvements. We've been doing mixing in reservoirs so we can better utilize the whole capacity of the reservoirs, which allows us to then move water differently and pump water at different times of the day. It helps the lifespan of these reservoirs. It keeps our employees safe. It also allows us to better utilize low energy times of day to move water. Next slide. You're aware of this. We've talked about public safety power shutoffs. You know, there's a new thing that we've adopted in the last few years where we just get a notification from Edison because of the weather, we're going to turn off circuits. Well, that's not good for us. We got to move water. And so, you know, Paul and his team has been phenomenal at telling us what they need, how we do this. There's a portable generator. You see there, we got to move these things out there. We got to plug them in. We got to turn them on. We got to fuel them. If we have a PSPS event that lasts for numerous days, we have a major effort to get fuel to those things because they have a limited fuel capacity. And how do we do that? And which 15 critical sites do we put equipment at to make sure that, you know, we're not missing anything? And, you know, we're looking at, well, where do we put permanent structures in? The board went out and toured our fuel, our on-site fuel storage capacity and said, we need more. And so we've got more. We're trying to figure out how to build that, where to build that. But we're also being very careful about energy costs because energy is expensive. And so we're continuing to look at more solar opportunities, and we've already implemented solar. We've implemented battery storage. That battery storage program has worked really well. That was a good test. Now we're looking at where else can we do something like that. Next slide. Financial strength. You guys just took another step in utilizing our financial strength. But this year, really proud, Standard & Poor's moved us to AAA bond rating. We're as high as we can get. We can't do any better than we're doing. This year alone, $24 million in grant funds. I say we balanced affordability in a shifting economy. I thought a lot about how to say this in the bullet. What does that mean? You know, our rates, as we're trying to match inflation and tariffs and other things, and, you know, with our magic crystal ball trying to figure out what tariff is coming down the pike next, we were able to build that into a very, very steady rate adjustment over the next 4 years for our customers. And that's important. That's predictability. And that's important for Rick in our own finances. It's important in rates. And it's important for our operations staff to plan. How do we spend money? And, you know, maybe we should be buying a whole bunch of equipment right now and putting it on our shelves instead of waiting to see what a tariff does 2 years from now. And so we're thinking about that all the time. And what projects do we have coming up? You know, we're replacing motors. We know some of the equipment in that motor might come from somewhere that's going to see a big tariff, and we might have a supply chain problem getting that. So we're constantly thinking about that. Next slide. Reliable water every time, all the time, no matter what, and do everything we can to keep it affordable. Next slide. Next slide. So this is the communication side of things. How are we measuring what we do? 23,000 surveys were completed. That's huge. Most people delete it when it comes to them in email. They're filling the thing out. We love it. Thank you to their customers. a 72% overall customer satisfaction, maybe even better, an 80% customer trust. So that's gone up astronomically from what we used to see. So really, really proud of those numbers. And I think it's great that we're checking those numbers. We're just not saying, hey, what we're doing is working. We're going out trying to figure out if it's working, great, it's working. If it's not working, how do we adjust from there? Next slide. Customer feedback. So we're listening. Go to the center. We have a great story about some feedback we got from that little fella's mom. Said, thanks for making my son's day. He loves trucks. And so Arturo stopped and talked with that kid and looked at his truck and, you know, showed him our truck, and it made his day. We had a blast at Western Municipal Water District's Waterworks Wonder event this past weekend. It poured rain the entire time, but it didn't stop us from having a blast. We learned so much. Local friends, definitely plan to check it out again next year. Well, don't go next year, go in 2 years. But that's feedback that we're getting. That's not, you know, what we're saying. So I really love that feedback, that positive feedback. Next slide. So I wanted to focus, you know, you've heard, you know, my version of my accomplishments and the agency's accomplishments in my review. I wanted to make this more customer facing. You know, we could have customers watching this, or, you know, we memorialize this on tape and record it, but wanted to make it a little more customer focused. I'm also going to be doing an all hands presentation at the next all hands meeting on our accomplishments so they can see it, along with the results of our latest employee satisfaction survey. So with that, happy to take comments or questions.
Customers get to see what the work you guys have been doing. So really great presentation. Thank you.
Is the presentation that you do for the all hands, is that recorded at all, or?
No, that's secret.
I'm just curious.
That's secret.
All right.
We actually don't record those. I don't know.
I don't know if there's.
Maybe
a
there's
need to,
staff.
but I just-
Staff might be, you know, recording on the phone while I talk. We don't. There's, you know, I think that they're really positive events.
sure they
They've
are.
changed a lot. I think Grace and her team, and, you know, we're like, oh, what are we going to do entertaining? Because we don't want this to just be a boring thing where the staff don't like to be there. So we think all the time about what we're doing. And then we survey. We do a lot of surveys, and the staff continues to respond, and then we react to what they want to see. But they like to hear about other groups in the district. So the ops teams want to hear what the finance team's doing, and vice versa. But accomplishments is really big. I'm going to add your comments that you made about the employee or water professionals recognition. We're going to talk about the employee surveys. The employees like to hear about that. They want to know how they stack up. Sometimes they want to say we're better than that other group. We're going to avoid that conversation. But the numbers that have come out in that survey are amazing numbers. And that's an anonymous survey to the staff. That's not, you know, Craig saying, you know, we're good workers. That's them anonymously telling us how we're doing as a leadership team and as an organization.
Question. Going back to slide 18
No.
and talking about the low-income assistance program, you know, obviously, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I fought for this program for a very long time, and you made comments that you and Rick were going to talk about doing a revision of this program, and we've got increased participation. I don't know, and I can't recall if we've upped the amount that we're dedicating to that fund or not. I know we've had discussions in the past if we want to change the amount that we provide or have been able to assist people with. So I'd be curious to hear something about that at some point.
Yeah, we're not ready for that, but we're thinking hard about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the other question I have is, have we ever done a survey of feedback from the people who participate in this program to see any feedback from them? Just a curiosity question.
I don't know. I think the customer service team, that's a good question for Sarah. The customer service team gets feedback. I don't know that we've surveyed that particular group to get results.
Yeah, that's correct. So we haven't yet done direct surveys for those participating in that program specifically. We have started a new post-contact survey. So anybody who contacts us, which you would have to in order to participate, are offered that. And so that's something new, and we're still collecting that information on an ongoing basis. But as we explore future programming opportunities, that'll be something we'll definitely consider in terms of experience in the program, needs of the program,
Yeah.
so on.
Because it would be very different, question-based to try to get some feedback, because obviously this was designed to be helpful. And if it's not entirely helpful, how do we try to revamp the program to make it more helpful or user-friendly or whatever we want to call it, just to get some interesting on the receiving end of it. So just a curiosity question, food for thought. I really want to keep my finger on this, and sometimes with my assignment now at Metropolitan, I miss some of the reports on these, and I have to try to circle back and try to get the information from you guys, and I'm sorry I kind of get it at board, but, and maybe we could add a little blurb at my briefings for Met to include some things that I might miss when I don't get to go to finance because I'm at Met.
That's a good idea.
Which would be really helpful to me so that I know kind of where we're at with this. But just a comment, I think this is wonderful. It's really nice. I've chimed in on you guys, and especially Craig, for years to ring your bell and talk about everything that you guys have done, because a lot of the public doesn't get the opportunity to see all of the good work. And when you put it in this form, it just lets people know the enormous lift our staff has in our community and what we're doing to take care of them on a day-to-day basis, and I just, great job. Thank you.
Craig, I would just suggest when you take this to all hands, you add a little bit of focus on what our ops people have done in the way of building the shop and their ability to manufacture parts faster than we could possibly order them. And the impact that has. And it will save us money on tariffs. We'll be able to fix things faster. So it's an important thing our staff has done under your leadership that wasn't in this.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, the show and tell.
It was.
Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazingly skilled people doing that stuff.
They are.
We're lucky to have.
But I feel like they're uniquely skilled as well. They're not a dime a dozen, those folks that have that background and that ability.
The widget makers.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have them.
Well, and you don't see it as much, the passion that they have for it and the pride they have in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we actually have to kind of pull the chain a little bit, because they're like, I can rebuild that. And you're like, we only have so many hours in every day.
Nice. Any other comments or questions for Craig? No? All right, thank you for those reports, and we can move on to director's comments and requests. Do we have a SAPA report, Director Gardner?
They have not met since our last meeting.
Oh, okay. And Metropolitan?
So Metropolitan, while we didn't have our regular board meeting, we did have workshops for the engineering and for finance. There was conversation about pure water, which I think Craig has already mentioned, that we had discussions. There's definitely been a change of the price tag. And, yeah, it's billion with a B. Yeah, it was big numbers. This phasing approach and what the incremental costs would be for those types of things. So more to come on that. And then obviously the finance workshop focused on, hey, this is what we're looking at kind of for our finance year coming into the budget, and what we're talking about, how these are all these numbers are going to play into these things. So it was a lot of information crammed in a short amount of time. And I think staff is just kind of prepping us for the conversations down the road of this is what we are going to be entertaining and looking at and how we're going to peel it apart, how we're going to look at trying to afford it, what the cause and effect is going to be. And so it was just kind of a, by the way, get ready type of presentation. So more to come on that. But it was a lot of information packed into a short amount of time, and I don't know that all the questions that wanted to be asked got asked. Is that a fair? I mean, you're nodding your head, but as far as finance, I mean, they're gearing up. They're gearing up. So, yeah. So that's it. So I'll have more to report next time.
All right, thank you. And Chino Basin Water Master, Mike?
They had a special meeting yesterday. It was closed session only, which I can't talk about, but I can talk about all of the pleadings that have recently been filed. There was a appellate court decision kind of revolving around Metropolitan Water District's dry year yield program, where they store water in Chino Basin in wet years and can ask Chino Basin pumpers to withdraw water in dry years when they have less imported water available. The litigation litigation claimed that it was operated improperly and two entities withdrew water from the program when they shouldn't have. And the appellate court said, yeah, that's right. You didn't do it right. That has no direct impact on Western, but the direction from the court is that there's an assessment charge on most water pumped out of Chino Basin that helps fund the water master. And that does not apply to water withdrawn from the dry year yield program. It doesn't apply to Chino desalter and a couple other things. The court said it should have applied to those withdrawals because they weren't done correctly under the dry year yield program. So now there is discussion about one of the parties, City of Ontario, is saying we won. All water that is withdrawn from the basin has to be assessed, the per acre foot charge, and that includes Chino desalter water. If you add a additional charge on top of Chino desalter costs, it's going to increase the cost of the water potentially to the point where it is not economic. There will be more economic alternatives available, and that's a problem for operation of the basin, because without the Chino desalters, you lose hydraulic control. Water will flow subterranean into Prado Basin, and it's high salt water, which is not allowed. Because of the desalter, water is allowed, treated wastewater is allowed to be used for irrigation and for infiltration through percolation basins back into the water table. That wouldn't be allowed any longer. So it's getting very complex. I don't think anything is going to happen on that discussion right away, but it is on the table, and I think the Board of Water Master is going to be asked to make a decision should Chino desalter water be assessed. That would have a direct impact, monetary impact on Western, because we take water from Chino desalter. And it would have an impact on some of our partner agencies, Harupa Valley, or Harupa Community Services District in particular. But more, it would affect operation of the basin and throw things into real disorder, and we'd have to figure out how to get around that. So that's the big thing happening. Nothing has happened on it yet, but it's out there coming down the road.
Wow. Okay, RCRA.
We met not last Thursday, the Thursday before. The main action agenda was election of officers. After 2 years of service, I am no longer the chair, and yeah, it was 2 years. And Tracy Labonte from Home Garden Sanitary District is going to be the new chair, and Anthony Hirada from Rubido is going to be the vice chair, and Wes Peak from City of Corona is going to be the secretary and treasurer. And that was it. And then we authorized the administrator to issue a purchase order to Prospient for a solar dryer structure repairs at Rickra Treatment Plant. And that was it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
there was a closed session planned, and that was canceled.
Mm.
So that was it.
All right, let's see, WRCOG.
We meet on Monday.
Alrighty. And Sarah was
Met
there?
last month, so we're
okay.
good for now.
Okay, and Aqua.
So Aqua, JPIA, I had the liability committee meeting, and we talked about the industry right now, kind of the nuclear settlements that have been going on to drive, the liability portion, and some big payouts that have happened. The recommendation was for an increase on the rates of 5%, not the 10% that it was originally thought was going to have to be. So that's a good story. That will be moved on as a recommendation to the JPIA, which will then vote on it, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then we do have the Region 8, 9, and 10 event coming up in November, so that's quickly approaching. So if you haven't already made your reservations, I would get with Tammy to get that done. And then obviously the fall conference will be taking place first week of December, so I will be in attendance with that. So I don't know if we're talking about what we're going to do for the first meeting, if it's going to be held, canceled,
Well,
what's happening.
we're already thinking that we will only have the second meeting in December.
Okay.
Okay,
Because Aqua's in San Diego.
correct.
I'm anticipating several of you will want to go to that. So we're kind of planning our agenda to move everything to the second meeting in December. All our business items.
Okay,
That sounds good.
okay, and so that's where I'm at with Aqua.
Election? Aqua election? President, Vice
Oh,
President?
yeah, president and
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, so the elections are done,
we
so
saw the result.
we have a new board that will be starting in 2026 for Region 9, so there were a couple of changes. We have a new chair that was put in, and that was Joe Grindstaff from Eastern will be sitting as the new chair. Carol Lee has obviously moved off of the board because now she is officially the Aqua Vice President for that organization. So she has moved off of that board to assume that role for, her term. So congratulations to
And
her.
when does that start for her? Will it be at the fall conference? Or
Well,
December?
that's a good question. I don't know if she assumes it in the fall conference or if she'll be introduced at that, but definitely starting for the January term for 26, because I think technically it's for the year, the calendar year
yeah,
for
yeah.
26, 27.
VP, right? She is?
Correct.
That's exciting. Okay. Director comments.
Am I starting?
Director Risser.
Okay. Last week, I traveled to Oakland for a strategic, 5-year strategic planning for CASA. It was really good. We really focused on making sure that the advocacy part of CASA, just we focused on that, the upcoming bill. So it was a great planning 2 days events at that.
In Oakland?
In Oakland.
Okay, whatever. Okay.
And yes, it was very interesting. I tell you, it was really interesting.
That's a good way
Yes.
to put it.
And then yesterday, I attended the Riverside County's Women's Leadership Conference, and it was great to see staff. We took pictures. It was a really good event. So we always look forward to that.
Yeah.
So great
I-
speakers.
I really wanted to hear the lady from Miguel's Jr., the founder.
Yeah,
Was she good?
she was really good. Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. I have some snippets I'll share with you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Director Gardner? I have nothing. Director Denstedt?
Just a couple of comments. So I did attend the Marietta Chamber Gala, where we were up for the Large Business of the Year award. Sadly, we were not successful again, so we'll make another attempt at it. We'll do that. We need to send them the packet of our accomplishments, so something. Maybe we need to send a bribe. I don't know, but okay. Maybe we need to take somebody to lunch.
Oh, wait, I think you said a bride.
Yes.
Bride, yeah, a bride, that's what you meant.
Oh. So I did attend that. It was a very nice event, you know, and now that we have this really nice venue at Marietta Hot Springs Resort, they put on a really nice event. So it was nice to go and at least be on the board, get the acknowledgement that we were up for that award. So I do thank the chamber for that. Couple of other comments. One, those of you that see my pink, how could you not see my pink for today? Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So very important. Hope everybody is getting their annual checks and are supporting where they can for breast cancer awareness. There's a lot of activity going on out there and kind of affects us one way or another. Question, don't expect an answer, but just kind of a question. Now that March JPA has kind of exited the building and moved out, are we removing their name from the corner of the building?
I was wondering that too.
So just kind of wondering if we're going to be removing, you know, kind of the remnants so nobody from the public is confused because they don't. Yeah, so just kind of wanted to put that on the radar, and again, don't really expect an answer. And then my other question, which was kind of a memory recall in going through and looking some of these pictures. I believe that some of the pictures that were taken were at our round table, our all agencies meeting that we had last year with Metropolitan in place to give an update to all of our member agencies, and wondered if we were planning a similar event before Devin's exit, because I would hope we could get him here. And I'm seeing shaking heads. That's sad. Okay. All right. But are we planning an event?
Yeah, it's in the new year. I think we typically do it in the winter of the new year.
Okay.
We typically
All right.
aim for January. Sometimes it hits February, depending on schedules.
Okay, because I thought we had hit it like November last year. So, okay. All right, just a question. I just wanted to put that out there on the radar. So, and that is all I have.
Okay. The comment that I would like to share is a big thank you to my colleagues on the board, and especially to Ms. Ford. You've probably noticed I haven't been here for the last couple of meetings, and was going through some health challenges, and they seem to have righted themselves. Not to go into too much detail, but the original medicine that I was put on did not agree with me, and it took them a while to figure out that it was medicine that was not agreeing with me. So I am feeling much better this week. Monday, I started being able to go back out. I am so thankful for Zoom, because I was able to really keep up on most everything through Zoom, whether I could participate or not, you know, with certain things, no, but I could be an observer. So I really appreciated that. And I know some of you attended events for me that I couldn't be there, and then others of you made sure that we had quorums at our committee meetings, which I really appreciated. So I just wanted to say a really big thank you for that, and I'm anticipating that now as I move forward that things will get more back to normal. I am being kind of conscious of my schedule as far as not trying to add back in too many things all at once. Maybe have a little more balance in that area. My husband, if he were here, would be standing up going, yes, that is what you need to do. So, and bless his heart, he's been so helpful through this. So, so I just wanted to say thank you, and I
We're
really
happy that you're back up and around.
thank you. I really missed being here, and you know, I don't ever want to take good health for granted again, because I think I was just used to, you know, I was really sick. I never went to the doctor. Oh, that could be part of the problem. You know, so now that I see what the last 5-6 weeks were like, and it was a whole lifestyle change for me as far as what I could and couldn't do, it's not fun to go through. So I just encourage any of you that are, you know, contemplating, oh, I should maybe have this checked out, or I should go in for my physical or whatever, you know, I highly encourage you to do that, because denial doesn't work. So thank you all so much, and I'm really happy to be back here today. And I was a little apprehensive. I thought, well, I feel like I'm leading the meeting okay, but is someone afterwards going to say to me, you know, you were a little off today? I hope not.
Good with us.
But I do want to know if I was, so.
All good with
Yeah,
us.
so I say that lightheartedly, so thank you to all of you. And with that, we'll go to requests for future agenda items. Anybody? Nope. Okay. And then I think, Mr. Ballinger, do you want to take us into closed session?
Yes, the board will be meeting to discuss the 2 items that are listed on the agenda. We will be reporting out, although we don't anticipate any reportable action.
Okay. And we will move in there.
All right, let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll call us back into open session, and if we can have our general counsel report any action.
Before we do that,
Oh,
we
sorry.
should note that
Oh.
Director Gardner did not return to open session and has left the meeting. Director Torres left the meeting at 10:30, and so we do still have a quorum with Director Dinstedt, Director Risby, and President Roten.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, members of the public, the board met in closed session to discuss the two items that are listed on the agenda. With regard to the first item, item A, conference with legal counsel, there was a motion by Vice President Risby, seconded by Board Member Gardner to initiate litigation. That passed by a 4-0 vote with, again, Board Member Torres absent from the meeting. And the details of the defendant will be disclosed once service is effectuated. Other than that, there was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, our next meeting is Wednesday, October 15th, right here at 9:30 a.m., and we stand adjourned at 12:22.
12:22.